So, for tonight, we have a treat for you. We have Art and Laraine Bennett as our guest speakers. They're quite renowned in the North Virginia, DC area, but also all over the country. They speak on topics of marriage and family and relationships. Together, Art and Laraine have co-authored 7 books, 3 books on temperament. Art is a licensed marriage and family therapist with more than 35 years of clinical experience, currently practicing at Bennett Consulting and Therapy. And for 10 years, he was the president and CEO of Catholic Charities and co-founder and director of Alpha Omega Clinics. And Laraine has a master's in philosophy, also authored 2 solo books, The Little Way of Living with Less, Learning to Let Go with a Little Flower, and A Year of Grace. She also created a game. Did you play the game?
I have one in my.
You have one in your car. Well, maybe afterwards. The game is called Know Thyself, the Game of Temperaments. And so they have a forthcoming book. Is it coming out pretty soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any day.
Forthcoming book, A Catholic Guide to Freedom from Worry and Fear. A Catholic Guide to Freedom.
It's called anxiety.
Anxiety. Freedom from anxiety. Okay. They co-authored with your daughter, Leah. Okay. And like I said, they're frequent speakers on marriage and family, and they have 4 adult children and 11 grandchildren. Before I ask them to come up, I do have one more favor to ask of you. Please put your phones away. We would appreciate that. It's only an hour long, and would appreciate your full attention. So today, Art and Laraine will be talking about the 4 temperaments, your guide to relationships and marriage. So please help me in welcoming Art and Laraine Bennett.
Thank you, Mike. And also thank you, Grace. It's nice to meet you too. And thanks you guys for coming. Wow, we're not used to these kind of big crowds, so it's great. I want to give a shout out. Shout out to CCM, Catholic Campus Ministry, your home away from home. Food and snacks, relationship with Christ and God and with other people. Just a great thing to have. Now, Mike mentioned I am a marriage therapist, so I'll talk a bit about marriage and family stuff as well. But we find the temperaments are very helpful for self-knowledge and then also for relationships. So I hope you find the same. And I'd like to start with just a real quick prayer for those of you who want to. Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity of bringing these guys together. They're all radically busy in the midst of their studies and the things they have to do. I'm sure it's very pleasing to you that they want to get together and want to learn more about themselves. Ideally, Laraine and I can help them with that a little bit. So please bless this event, bless these kids, these guys, these young adults, and give us the ability to be of interest to them, maybe give them some things that might be helpful. Amen. Okay, now Pew, I don't know if you're familiar with the Pew Research. They do all sorts of studies on marriage and families and stuff. Found only about 20% of the singles today feel marriage is necessary. So there's clearly, you guys are a generation that's a little ambivalent about marriage in a way that's really never quite been seen before. But the Pew study shows that the happiest people, and this has been also proven at UVA, the Institute for Family Studies, if you want to, who's the happiest people? The happiest people you'll find tend to be males who are married and have kids. The second happiest people you'll find are women who are married and have kids. So there is a lot of publicity that marriage is a big ordeal. It is hard, it is a challenge. But in terms of happiness, marriage comes up very, very strong. Arthur Brooks, if you follow him, he's a Harvard guy, he's a lot of social media. He says there's 3 key things to being happy, but 1 is faith, 2 is family, and 3 is friendships. So you, as much as you can in your life, you want to be putting energy in those 3 areas if happiness is your goal. So don't give up on marriage and family. It is hard, it's not easy, but the rewards are great. So I mentioned that because I'm a marriage therapist, so I talk about it a lot, but also because I think Temperaments are really good, I think, for helping kind of understand yourself a little bit better, and then understanding the people you know, good friends and others as well. And there's also a temptation, I know, talking to our kids, we have 4 kids, ages 30 to 41, and when they were in college, was a heavy emphasis on, listen, don't get involved in this relationship stuff. You only got so much time, so work on your career, get that career going, and then worry about that relationship stuff later. But that would be a new model. That would be a way to go to college, I guess. It's never been done before. I mean, most people could actually get a career and meet great people. So it's great for us to see you guys here, friends and colleagues, well, because we can do more than one thing. We can have a great, we can learn a lot of stuff, and we can make great friends as well. Self-knowledge, knowing yourself. It's an ongoing process that never really stops. St. Teresa of Avila, 16th century saint from Spain, she even said, even in heaven, even the very other side of the end, that the self-knowledge doesn't stop. But we're continually, maybe that's what heaven's all about, continually learning more about ourselves. So the art and the act of understanding ourselves better, you never hit a point where, oh, enough of that. I know just enough about myself now, I can go on. It's an ongoing process that really never ends. And it leads to humility. I mean, you really know yourself well, you'll know strengths, you'll know weaknesses. And there's really no holiness, there's no spiritual growth without humility. So self-knowledge and humility go together. And knowing ourselves, knowing our temperaments, is just one way of doing it. Now, what's temperaments? Our view is the temperaments are a gift from God, and they're kind of a way you're kind of hardwired. Perhaps right at birth, maybe as a young person. I want to be real clear that one of the misunderstandings about temperament, you're putting people in a box. You know your temperament, you're in a box, but it's really not how temperament works. Temperament's just how you kind of lean a little bit, kind of how you tend to respond or react to certain things. If we go to a party where we don't know anybody, Laraine is comfortable with that. I get to meet new people that way. I'm kind of going, well, what am I doing here? How did I say yes to this? I don't even know anybody, that kind of thing. That's temperament. It's temperament. But temperament doesn't force us to be a certain way. It just kind of helps us lean that way a little bit. We'll talk more about that. Our personality is bigger than our temperament. So when we talk about temperament, it's not your whole personality. Your whole personality is, you have your temperament, that's part of it. Your culture, your ethnic background and all that. Your family of origin. You learn a lot from your family of origin. It's really important. Your education, why are you here? Why come here? Because you want to grow, and you'll grow here. So your education has a big impact on you as a person, but also on your personality. Your birth order, that's another thing, is sometimes an impact. And then we would think too, the grace that God gives us. All those things together form your personality, and you're working on that your whole life. I would be a person of character. That, but temperament, so we want to carry temperament, just part of that big picture. Okay, kind of how you tend to respond. Temperaments are more nature than nurture. Most psychologists are more into nurture. Temperaments is a little different, than it's more kind of a hardwired thing. We kind of think of it as God's gift to help us start our personality. And then quote by St. Thomas Aquinas, 12th century saints, philosopher, said, grace builds on nature. So this is going to talk more about the nature of life. Grace goes on top down. Now, Lorraine's going to talk about the 4 temperaments. We'll go through all 4. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Laraine Bennett.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I always have to start with a confession. So I didn't always know about temperaments, but so before I knew about the concept of temperament, I used to think that Art was just like me, only bad. But then I learned about the temperaments, and I discovered that some of those peculiar characteristics that really annoyed me, some of the things I thought he was doing on purpose to provoke and harass me, they were actually aspects of his God-given temperament. It's the way, as Art said, he's hardwired. So I discovered that if he doesn't answer a question right away, or he needs time alone, it's not because he's mad at me, or he's avoiding me, or it's not because he's being antisocial, right? That's what I thought before. then I discovered temperament and I realized it's his God-given temperament. So once I discovered this, it actually helped our relationship and a lot of conflicts disappeared. And so it might be just part of human nature that we tend to think that the way we react is the way everybody ought to react. And then when they don't react the way we think they should or the way I react, then we judge them harshly. So that's what we're kind of getting at when we're talking about temperaments. It's that people have different reactions. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 4 classic temperaments, which goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. So specifically Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he's the one who came up with the 4 temperaments that we talk about in our books, which are the choleric or choleric, weird words, phlegmatic, sanguine, and melancholic. So these are strange, terms, but it goes back to Hippocrates, so blame him, not us. Anyway, and so we're just using the same terms just to have this consistency of language there. So way back for Hippocrates, he was talking about like various aspects of bodily fluids and whatnot, like the blood or something. So he had an opinion on why people were different. But anyway, we don't have the same concept today in terms of why people react differently, but psychologists still do study temperament. Okay. Now, so we're gonna talk about it using the old terms. And the first one that I'm talking about is the choleric or the choleric. Now, the thing about cholerics, they are your typical type A personality. So they have quick, intense reactions, which tends to make them decisive, tenacious, and driven to follow through. They're determined, energetic, forceful, and confident. So what you want to know about cholerics is that they love to be in charge. And they don't have to have any experience in the areas or situations in which they decide to take charge. Okay. Oh, I should mention right now that I'm choleric and Art is not. Okay, so he's the opposite. So, Mike said we should talk about some of our dating experiences. Okay. When we were in college, I actually first noticed him when we were in an upper division philosophy class together, actually Hegel. And he actually winked at me from across the room. And so I noticed him, right? But then him being phlegmatic, which you'll find out about next, he didn't do anything after that. So I happened to notice that he had a very cool VW van. This is a long time ago. Now they're coming back, the VW vans. Anyway, so he had one. And also, believe it or not, he had long blonde hair, like long. Now he doesn't have it. But he did. This is a long time ago. Anyway, so I was moving. I had to get out of my apartment. So basically, I asked him if he could help me move, and because he had a van, right? Anyway, that's how it all started, and the rest is history. Okay, so cholerics, more description. They're fiercely independent, self-motivated, and strong-willed. They're sometimes accused of rolling over people once they've set a plan in motion, of being stubborn and demanding, opinionated, competitive, and argumentative. Now, any of you out there who are choleric, you'll say, why? Thank you for the compliments. These things don't bother you. So, for example, our youngest child, Lucy, she does give us permission to use her name. In fact, she demands it. She's a choleric, like me. And when she was younger, she was helping me with, in the kid book that we wrote, we had a temperament test for kids, right? And so I asked her to look at it. She was a kid. What do you think about this? So we had of all the different temperaments, the 4 temperaments, and we had the strengths and weaknesses, right? Okay, so she's looking it over, and I said, "What do you think? Do you think this is pretty good?" Yeah, and she goes, "Yeah, this is not bad. It's not bad." She goes, "One thing I don't understand, though, why do you have always right listed as a weakness?" Because clearly it's a strength, right? Anyway, clerics are always right. Also, clerics are the ones who are always debating everything you say. They love to have debates. In fact, I say that arguing is our love language. So St. Paul, do you guys all know who St. Paul is? St. Paul from the scriptures. We're going to quote some scripture here. So he was probably a choleric. Okay, it says in the Bible, it says St. Paul is in Athens at this time, and he gets exasperated by all the idols in the public square, and it says, "So he debated in the synagogue with the Jews and the worshipers, and daily in the public square with whoever happened to be there." And he even disagreed openly with St. Peter, who was the first pope. "I opposed him to his face because he clearly was wrong." And then it says in Acts about St. Paul, it says, quote, "He even addressed the Greek-speaking Jews and debated with them. They, for their part, responded by trying to kill him." And that is what sometimes happens with cholerics. People feel like killing you because you're so annoying. Okay, so if any of you are cholerics, now you can there's a quiz, temperamentquiz.com. I don't know if they, okay, any of you? Okay, are cholerics, then you'll know that there are some virtues that might be more challenging to achieve. And those would be humility, patience, and docility. It's hard for clerics to learn to listen and to have empathy and to turn the other cheek when necessary. Now, I like to tell a story about this. One way to help kind of encourage some of these virtues is to practice a communication skill that's called being open to influence. Okay? Now, just being open to influence when you're talking to another person doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. All it means is that you listen respectfully. So I'm going to give you an example of this, okay? A few years ago, out of the blue, Art came home and he said, he goes, "I have this great idea. I really want to do this thing." And I go, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to go on this adventure trip where you take a helicopter and you get dropped in the middle of a snowy mountain range in Wyoming. And then you have to navigate your way out of there. You have to find your way back to civilization only using the stars." And I said, very supportively, as a very supportive wife that I am, I said, "That is the stupidest idea I have ever heard." Now, if you know Art, you will know that I was speaking the truth. I was, as usual, right. However, this is not the important feature. Actually, the last time we went camping, for example, we left the kid. This is when we had all our kids were at home still. We left the kids in the tent, and because we couldn't get the coffee started on the campfire, so we left them and drove off to Starbucks. Anyway, so this is how we camp. But so the point being, this was a terrible idea. However, because I had said that's the stupidest idea, I didn't even listen. I didn't even hear him out. I didn't listen with respect. And that's the key thing. I should have been open to influence, which is the communication skill. And I should have said something like, "Well, tell me more about that." Or, "Why is this important to you?" And that would have furthered our conversation and it would have brought us closer together. So that's just one example of what a choleric can do to help encourage their growth in empathy. But they do have natural gifts of magnanimity and leadership, confidence and zeal, and these can be great gifts to their families, their community, and the world. Now, Art's going to talk about the exact opposite temperament to the choleric, which is the phlegmatic.
48 years and never won an argument. Pretty cool. So like Laraine said, thank you, Laraine, great. This next temperament is 180 for the choleric. It's called the phlegmatic. However, it has its own merits. I'll talk about that. And by the way, we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses. These are not moral strengths, moral weaknesses. Some things are easier for some temperaments, and some things are harder for different temperaments. Phlegmatics are often very popular. They're very congenial. They're easygoing, usually soft-spoken or peaceful. See, we have a couple of baseball players over here. They want to play second base, and they'll bat seventh, and they're okay with that. They want something, they don't have to get a lot of attention or adulation. They just want to be part of the team, and they're happy to fit in, not run the show like the cleric probably wants to do, but just be a participant. That's cool. Often the phlegmatics will react slowly and not with a great intensity. You get a lot of intensity from a couple temperaments, choleric and the one talked about later, melancholy. Phlegmatics usually don't cause a lot of attention to themselves. They don't ruffle a lot of feathers. They just really want to be cooperative, and they want to be part of something bigger than them. So they're usually pretty calm, even-keeled. Most of the time, even in the middle of a conflict, they're pretty good. But I'll talk a little bit more about conflicts and battles. They're peacemakers. There's something noble about a peacemaker. I mean, maybe you have a friend that's like that, or maybe you are phlegmatic, and one of your roles sometimes is to calm people down and see what's really working and not being so alarmed. And there's a real need for that. Every team needs that. Every family needs it probably. Every organization needs that. Somebody who's not coming in thinking about themselves so much, but what's best for the organization or the mission people on. They tend to be pretty dependable, polite, and even tempered. And just great people to be married to. By the way, I'm a phlegmatic. Was that so? Well, it's funny if you have kids. If you get a phlegmatic kid, and I often talk to people. If you haven't had a phlegmatic kid yet, keep having a kid till you have one, because you want at least one kid that does what you say. The phlegmatic will do it. They're very cooperative, so that's great. But the weak spot for the phlegmatic, though, so they're peacemakers, but the weak spot for the phlegmatic is conflict, particularly interpersonal conflict. Their amygdala fires back here, and they get nervous about any conflict at all. In fact, it's a skill that phlegmatic, and I can speak from experience, has to learn is how to be comfortable and lean into conflict and not avoid it. Because truth is, I'm sure you're finding this already here in college, life is full of conflict. And it really doesn't ever really end. It's just whether you get good at it and artful with it, or you let it kind of take over. So it's something we're all working on, but it's a phlegmatic. It's something you have to work on over time. Because of the peacemaking aspect, when there's rough waters or people are having a hard time, but would be tempted to lean out or even avoid it. But then Laraine said, we look at anxiety. The way to increase anxiety is to avoid conflict. If you say, I really want to be anxious, you're not anxious enough. I want to really be anxious. Find all the stuff you're supposed to do and ignore it. Your anxiety will go through the roof. That's one of the temptations for us. However, we can overcome that, and that's just the same. Just as the choleric needs to maybe listen a little bit better, or not initiate everything all the time. The phlegmatic needs to initiate more, and sometimes give their opinion even if it's not that popular. Choleric loves to be in charge. Phlegmatic is extremely cooperative and prefers taking direction. Now, the choleric also likes to stir things up. The phlegmatic will usually try to fit in, and let's just keep it calm. Let's kind of keep it smooth and cool here. Sometimes when you're talking to phlegmatics about what they want to do or whatever, they say, "Oh, I don't care, whatever you want to do." And if you have phlegmatic kids, you have to actually help them learn to be more assertive. Say, well, that's okay. I'm asking what you want to do. What you want to do is important. It doesn't come naturally to phlegmatics. They just kind of blend in a little bit. It's hard for them sometimes to be assertive and things like that. So a couple examples. One of our sons was phlegmatic, and he was a little bit shy, but he had this great insight that he heard somewhere that like the first 2 weeks when school starts, I don't know if it's true here, but he was at Virginia Tech at the time. And the first 2 weeks, he's found everybody's open to making new friends, both semesters. Because after about, he thought, third or fourth week, here come midterms, here come studies, it gets hard. People kind of shut down, they don't have time. So he was not really outgoing, but he was a friendly kid, really friendly kid. So he would really like walk up and down the halls. He lived on campus and meet new people. And he found almost everybody's open to meeting new people the first 2 weeks before they get kind of hit hard. So it was like a strategic move. I thought I was really kind of proud of it. That made sense. So he could put kind of what people were more adapted. And then those friendships survive when you're in midterms and finals and stuff like that. But another very common thing when I work in counseling sometimes is like phlegmatics might go to a place, I want to meet new people, or I'm going to a church event or public event. I don't know a lot of people. That's pretty hard for phlegmatics. Not for cholerics, they'll just run the show. But phlegmatics are kind of hard. So let's just I see this all the time. I talk to people. I walk in, I see a circle of people, but I don't know how to enter the circle. I know, why don't you want to enter the circle? Well, I'm not sure they want me to enter the circle. How do you know they don't want you to enter the circle? Aren't they there to meet people? Yeah, but it's awkward. It's awkward. And they go, man, it's awkward. Is it horrible? Or is it just awkward? And that's the kind of stuff phlegmatics have to think about. Just because it's awkward, this means it's awkward. I mean, they'll do it. In fact, what is everybody hoping will happen in that circle? They'll meet new people and more people will come in. So the phlegmatic has to kind of overcome that initial caution that things are harder than they seem. And over time, that's exactly what they can do. I'll give you another example. My son was playing high school basketball. And the way it worked at a small little school, he had a game every Tuesday night, every Friday night. But the Tuesday night game was often a road game, so it's a small little funky Catholic school. So sometimes you have to go way over to Colonial Beach or way up to Richmond. He would come back maybe 11 or midnight for the basketball. He's a pretty good basketball player. And he loved basketball, but he also loved math because he wanted to be an engineer. So here's his goal. I want to go to Virginia Tech and be an engineer. And so I saw his midterms. I go, wow, you got a C in math. You can't get into Virginia Tech as an engineer with anything less than an A in math. I mean, there's no way. So he sees a conflict: basketball, engineering. And his first reaction was, I got to quit basketball. I go, whoa. So see, that's kind of like, there's a conflict. I want to flee from it, so I just cut something off. And you got to watch for that. And I go, well, I mean, maybe there's a way you can do both. You can get an A on that Wednesday test. Every Wednesday there was a quiz that he was not doing well in, and he blamed it on basketball. I said, gosh, what can you, is there any, I said, I don't think you should quit. I wouldn't let him quit. So how can you both get an A in math and still be the starting point guard of the basketball team? How can you get both of those things to happen? He goes, I don't know. So why don't you think about it for a day or two? Because his first reaction was, I don't know. 2 days later, he goes, I have an idea, brilliant idea. 16-year-old kid. I could study on Saturday, Sunday, on Monday. I go, yeah, good idea. Oh yeah, long story short, did you get an A? Did you go to Virginia Tech? And he's on retirement plan because he's a wealthy engineer now. So I'm glad he figured it out. But you can see how that stressor or the stress hit him. He kind of froze a little bit. And sometimes you just step back and look at the big picture. Maybe there's other options. So you want to watch out for that first. I'm going to avoid, I don't like it. If you have phlegmatic friends, they're very tempting to nag because they don't work real fast enough. They don't get things done quick enough. They also tend to be the temperament with the least self-confidence. The most self-confidence is the choleric belief. So if you're kind of pounding a friend or a colleague or who's a phlegmatic, it doesn't actually help. Better maybe just to kind of encourage them to try things. What are the virtues they want to strive for? That's phlegmatic. Audacity. Some things are worth fighting for, worth stating. Courage is a great one. Just because people don't like it or don't think it's true. Sometimes you want to take a chance at that. And also, they sometimes make the best leaders because of their diplomacy. They go along with people, and they can see both sides of the coin. St. Thomas Aquinas was one famous, what Laraine mentioned, St. Paul. Aquinas was a great scholar, and he just pretty much spent most of his life writing philosophy texts, but he was still read today. And so that's the second temperament. So Lorraine's going to talk about the sanguine temperament.
Thank you, Art. Okay, so the sanguine is your classic people person. So they're the life of the party, fun-loving and affectionate. They're eager to please. They love to be the center of attention. They have quick, intense, but short-lived reactions. And as a result, they kind of live in the present moment. And they're very interested and optimistic and enthusiastic, but forgetful. So they tend to arrive late and they forget their car keys and even where they park their car. But they always have a funny story about why they're late, so you forgive them. And if any of you are sanguine, and as a kid, you might remember this. As kids, sanguines are the ones who they leave home in the morning for school, and then they have to run back in 5 times because they forgot their homework and they forgot the permission slip or the sports equipment or whatever. And this kind of forgetfulness is just part of the temperament. It's not out of any kind of, being bad or something, on purpose. It's just simply part of the temperament. And they love people and they enjoy life and they have lots of friends and lots of activities. They love being very active. They're sociable, spontaneous, and scattered. They're like butterflies that flip from flower to flower, from one interest to another. In school, they join lots of clubs and then they forget to attend the meetings. So our sanguine son in high school, so one year he signed up for every club. And then, of course, he didn't attend the meetings, but he did show up on picture day. And that's what he said really counts. So I was looking at the yearbook. This is how I found out. I'm like, wait a minute. You're in the chess club? Do you even play chess? Wait, I know you don't play the violin. I just know it. Anyway, but he just showed up for all the pictures. They tend to be the most extroverted. So there's extroverted and introverted, so on a continuum. And they're very sociable. And I need to explain this one thing, though. Being extroverted and sociable, being the most sociable temperament, doesn't mean the other temperaments are not. Okay, this is very important to understand. It's just that the intensity of the drive to sociability is most intense in the sanguine, and it's the least intense in the melancholic, which you will hear about next. And every human person is we are social creatures, right? In fact, we're created in the image and likeness of God, and God himself is a communion of persons. So, the Trinity. So the idea is that therefore we are all made for communion. We are made to be in relationships with God, with each other, future spouse, whatever. St. Peter, we like to say, was a lovable but inconstant and impulsive sanguine. So at one point he says in the scriptures, Lord, I'm prepared to go to prison and to die with you, he said. And then just a few hours later, he denies even knowing Christ, right? At the transfiguration, which is when Christ became transfigured at the top of the mountain, Peter enthusiastically offers to set up 3 tents on the spot, even though, as scripture notes, he did not know what he was talking about. And then when Christ appeared walking on the water, there's the famous scene, they're in the boat. Peter impulsively joins him, steps out on the water, and then he sinks. Right? Okay, impulse, yeah. So I forgot to mention, most people are a combination of 2 temperaments, right? And I'm choleric and sanguine. So the secondary temperament is sanguine. And guess what? Art is exactly opposite. So he's phlegmatic, melancholic, right? Okay, so this means that I am way over here on the sociable spectrum here, and he's not so much. And so this actually led to some interesting, conversations and sometimes even conflict when we were dating, and then later even when we're married as well. So, for example, it would be some whatever Friday night, and I'd be like, okay, what are we gonna do? Let's go. I know, let's go to the movies. I know, oh wait, we gotta go to the movies and we've gotta go out to eat. So let's do both. Oh, wait a minute. Would you rather do a picnic? Maybe we could do a picnic. We're trying to save money. I mean, we're not that rich. I mean, if we could do a picnic, we could do movies, we could go out, we could, wait a second, we haven't played tennis in forever. Or would you rather play racquetball? I mean, why are you not answering me? Well, of course, it was because I hadn't given him a chance to, A, I hadn't given him a chance to answer. B, he's phlegmatic and melancholic. So he needed time to think about it. And also he didn't want to go out. So, it's kind of an ongoing process. So basically the sanguines need to learn to balance work with fun. So I have a ton of stories about our sanguine son in high school, and high school was a real struggle. He eventually attended college. In fact, he attended 4 colleges, 4 different universities. Yes, he did. But he eventually earned a PhD. So that shows you that sanguines can learn the very important virtues of self-control and perseverance and, just really sticking to a project and finishing it. But they are tempted not to. So now Art's going to talk about the last one, which is the melon. How are we doing? We're doing good.
Lyric segment says we're doing good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I can see what I meant when I said never won an argument. It's been 48 years.
Yeah.
I love Lorraine's energy. It's been great. It's been great. Melancholic's the opposite of sanguine. So the most extroverted temperament with Lorraine's qualifications, everybody is sociable. Some people just put more energy into it. The one that puts maybe the least amount of energy into it would be called a melancholic. It's the opposite. Sanguine is outgoing, optimistic, enthusiastic about almost everything. The melancholic, well, I'm a card-carrying melancholic. Let me figure that out. More cautious. I'm not sure. Really? Is that the best way to go here? A little pessimistic, but we call it realistic. Realistic. And sometimes serious, sometimes too serious. Looking at the gravity of life, hardness of life. Kind of like we're poets that never kind of got out of that phase at times. But our perspective is I'm the only adult in the room, so I have to tell like it is. Thank God I'm here to see what's all the problems are. Now, like all the temperaments, there's really a need for all these qualities that each of the temperaments have. Just that some parts of us, the temperaments, can take more of a lead, but we can all change. I hope that's coming across because we're kind of talking these temperaments, but they don't put you in a box. You can change and grow. So maybe like that. Sanguines react quickly to things. Melancholics don't tend to react that quickly. I've worked a lot with melancholics. I'm a therapist. Most therapists are melancholic. So most teachers are melancholics too. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to argue and get your grade up or whatever. Most priests are melancholics. Most writers are melancholic. Most artists are melancholic. They like to spend time alone. They really like to think things through. That's really important. Now, the temptation, though, for the melancholic is not just to look at quality. Quality is really important. I mean, you probably can know people that really care about quality and people that don't. Melancholics usually care a lot about quality, but sometimes they can shift into not just care about quality, but into being perfectionists. And the difference between high quality and doing things right, being perfectionist, is a big difference. Because, quite honest, very few things in life are perfect. You sit around waiting for the perfect guy or the perfect girl, the perfect teacher, the perfect school, or the perfect day. You might get the perfect day, but you're gonna miss out a lot of life. a lot. So that's one thing you have to watch out for if you have that tendency. It must be this way. If it's not this way, I don't want to partake in it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. You can sometimes miss things that are also really good for you. They're also sometimes slow to initiate. The other temperaments, of all the temperaments, the one can most easily say, "Nah, I don't think so," would be the melancholic. I don't like that idea. I don't want to do that. That's all right. And sometimes they're slow to initiate or do something new. We had a daughter. Actually, we have 4 kids, 4 different temperaments, but opposite temperaments. So we just couldn't stop writing about it. But anyhow, so our daughter was working as she was going to college. She was working at the fitness center. Okay, I guess every school probably has them now. And she had been working there. It's a college job, 15 hours a week, 12 hours a week, from August to March. So she came home for Easter in March. So we asked her, "How's it going? How do you like that? How's the job working out?" And she goes, "Well, I like it a lot. I mean, I'm there, and the exercise stuff. They have the yoga pads and the bicycle and the weights and all this stuff here." She goes, "But you know what I'm thinking? Maybe I should start working out." So she'd been working there 7 months. She never worked out. And then Laraine had a great line. She goes, whoa, don't rush into that decision. Take some more time. Don't do anything rash. This is sometimes the problem with the melancholics. We can go 0.99999 and you never shift it to 1, or we don't make a decision because we don't have all the information yet. You ever find that sometimes? If you're working on a term paper and stuff, you can only spend so many days on it. You got to pull the trigger and come up with an opinion or whatever. Melancholics attempt to just go on and on, ask for delays and more research, less sleep, more information, more of this, more of that. Got to read everything twice, 3 times. That's kind of a compulsion. That's kind of trying for perfectionism, and that just slows you down. Makes life harder. So you got to watch out for that. I know in counseling, the thing comes up all the time with the melancholic. And melancholic go to counseling, and is uncomfortable with ambiguity. Yes, I would put it that way. If everything's not all right, okay, just the way I want it, I don't want anything to do with it. And how many experiences, just think of that, how many experiences would you miss out on? Well, this poet has a bad poem. I don't want to have a bad poem, but how about the other 12? Or I don't like that song by that band. I don't want to see it. Well, okay, well, I can that one song or whatever, that kind of thing. Or, okay, I'm not the perfect guy. I only have a VW van. Of course, that was perfect for her movie. That's the reason. It's a classic example of the car made the difference. But so we want to watch out for that perfectionist streak, because you're just going to miss out on so much of life if you let that take over. Example, our daughter, who's melancholic, was having trouble meeting somebody, but she would not go on a dating app. Something wrong with dating apps. It's not the right thing. It's inauthentic. It's not genuine. Okay, but then the years go by, and then all of a sudden one day she goes, "I'm not really meeting anybody. I'm not finding the right guy," and things. So she went on the dating app. But it's your husband and stuff. That was a big battle for her. She really thought it was not a good thing, even though it's a very popular thing. It was hard for her to switch off that, though she eventually did. And then one guy went on a business trip to California, and his wife at the time, said, "Make sure you call me on the business trip." He's a salesman. He's a sanguine. He's in California. 3-hour time difference. He goes, "Oh my God, I forgot to call him. I forgot to call." These are the days. Yeah, I'd actually go to the bar and ask for a phone. It was a freak cell phone. And he asked for it. So he calls her and goes, she goes, "Oh, thanks for calling. Why so late?" And I go, "Oh, I just forgot. I had some meetings. I forgot." "You forgot to call me? What's that noise in the background? Where are you?" "I'm at a bar." We went to a bar afterward. "You're in a bar? You're calling me from a bar? I thought we had something special going on. You're coming from a bar and you call me late?" And she got a little pissed off about that. She wanted to end the relationship. Luckily, she didn't. But that kind of like, it's not just the way I want it. You gotta watch for that. I'm a card-carrying melancholy. You gotta watch for it all the time. We sometimes so long for heaven that everything on earth falls short. On the other hand, while we're idealistic, having ideals is wonderful. Ideals aren't the same as goals. Goals are, I gotta get this accomplished, I gotta get this done, I'll check with. Ideals are, I want to be a person of gratitude. Be a man who tells the truth. I want to be a person who's friendly. Those are ideals, and melancholics usually take to that. That's a great thing. Virtues that come easily. Melancholics, just because something's hard, that doesn't usually mean they'll say no. They usually hang tough with difficult things. They have good perseverance. Sanguines have a hard time persevering. Melancholics can persevere even on tough stuff. They love the truth, they love beauty, and they love the good. They really value those things. They take the noble and the true road. They tend to be people of integrity, mean what they say and say what they mean. Their yes means yes, their no means no. Challenging virtues for them, forgiveness. It's hard for melancholics to forgive. They keep score all the time. It's just hard for them to say, okay, thank you, I do forgive you, and let's start over again. It's hard for them, but it's necessary. Hard to be flexible, hard to be gracious as well. So anyhow, that's the four temperaments. We use the old, like Laraine said, we use the old-fashioned terms. Modern psychologists now understand temperaments are talking more about reactivity, impulsivity, ability to forgive, ability to hold on. We use the old terms just because I think there's just like a longer dialogue in psychology. We see the temperaments as a gift from God. It's a significant part of who we are, each of us, but it's not a whole personality. That's why you can change. It's because your temperament is sentenced to be a certain way or anything. I've learned to enjoy parties. Okay, so that's not, that was taking me a while, but it didn't come naturally, but I've learned to do that. And that way. A lot of the trick in life, the challenge in life is if you just react a certain way, you're going to nail some stuff, but you're going to miss on some stuff. Sometimes our reactions aren't proven, aren't wise. You don't want to just react, you want to respond lovingly, whatever your ideal is, lovingly, charitably, kindly. And to do that, you got to overcome some of your temperament. You got to make some changes. God, we believe, has given each of us temperaments. Kind of kickstarts us. But our goal in life is maybe here in college and university here is to continue to grow all the time. And one of the ways you grow, if you know your temperament, you'll kind of have a good short list of where am I really strong and good, and where do I need to work on some things. So I think it's pretty cool. I just want to close with a quote from a Catholic saint, Saint Catherine of Siena. And she's able to talk to God, and she asked him a question. Why didn't you just give everybody all the virtues they need? What's with this game? Some people are outgoing and interesting, other people are quiet and moody and stuff. Why don't you just give everybody everything? And unlike the rest of us, when she asked God that, he answered. Okay, that's why she's a great saint in this. What he said, it's kind of interesting what he said to her. Something to kind of take the prayer to think about it. If I gave everybody everything, then nobody would need anyone else. Then we would all be so proud that we would lose charity, and there would be no charity. There'd be no community. There'd be no somebody to lean on and help you and love you. So anyhow, that's our overview of the temperaments. Thanks, guys, for listening to this. And folks, hopefully, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them. Thank you. God bless you.
We have about 9 minutes for questions. Please, you have the extras right here, so ask away.
While you're thinking of your question, temperamentquiz.com, and you'll get a chance to take it. Laraine worked on it with some good scientists and mathematicians, so it's pretty solid. We've been using it for about 20 years. Seems pretty reliable. Check that in. Yes, ma'am.
So you two are like very opposite, but what if you're with someone that's very similar to you? Yeah. That's good too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what it is.
No. You. There's people on. Yeah. Whoever. Yeah. If you're, that can work too. Then the thing, because every couple is going to have their own things that they need to kind of like work on. And so for us, we had to like understand how we were just so opposite, and then come up with compromises. So we have lots of stories about many compromises where we had to meet in the middle. But like if you're very, very similar, you're gonna already like to do the same things, and you might have the same, you just maybe if you're both like, so one of our kids is married to somebody just like them. Well, no, actually two of our kids. But anyway, so they get along like great. But the only thing they have to watch out for is maybe getting stuck in a rut. So like, if you're like, let's take the couple who's both of them are homebodies, and then they're not going out ever. You know what I mean? Like they're just always staying home. So they might have to stretch in terms of the things that they don't feel naturally comfortable. But yeah, is that? Any other?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly top that. No, that's great. No.
Okay.
I think if you have the same temperament, that sometimes can be what you call, wow, who's hit it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then over time, like Laraine said, you can get, the temptation is to get into a rut, to do the same
Yeah.
things, go to the same place. On the other hand, sometimes you meet somebody and go, I don't know, I'm not so sure. We didn't totally hit it off.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean it's over? Could, or it could be, I don't know.
Maybe.
Let me try another time.
That's-
You have to be prudent about these things. So sometimes, I mean, has that happened? Sometimes your best friend, you maybe first didn't like him. I mean, Laraine only liked me for the car. It was all about having a van, and she had nothing. And all of a sudden, my stock went up, and then after that, I asked her how she would go out with me.
No.
Yeah, she eventually did. So I mean, my point is, you want to be a little wary of that first impression. Oh,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, you want to be
Mhm.
maybe not
That's
say, well, maybe I'll try this again, or maybe I won't. But we don't. But if you're saying temperament, you probably hit it off a little bit. Makes sense.
yeah.
Been a while. One thing she said I'm going to highlight to one person is what she said really in the beginning is, and I would come home a little bit moody and quiet. My idea when I came home from work is I need some time alone, and Laraine is maybe home with the kids and stuff. She wanted to talk to an adult, and so there was a little bit of a tension between us. But the real insight she said there, she shifted from seeing me as kind of being a jerk and self-centered. I mean, I have that capability, but to, wow, that's just kind of his temperament.
Yeah.
He's not trying to do that to annoy me and piss me off. And that's a major shift in thinking that can allow love to grow or friendship to grow. And then you can eventually say to someone, listen, I mean, I need you to initiate more. I've been home with the kids all day. Can you come home and just give me 10 minutes? I can do that. Of course I can do that. So I think that thing of not immediately going in your mind, he or she's doing this to piss me off or upset me, or if you get rid of that, it's a cool thing to get rid of. That's what the temperaments are.
Assuming.
Yes, sir.
Would you say there's such a thing as two people that are like too different? Is there such a thing? I mean, would you say or not really?
I think they're really different.
Yeah.
I know. So
Sure.
yeah, I
Like
know.
when I was there, I would never have a basketball player. I never had to be one basketball player.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
gave that up.
Yeah. No, and then personality one. Like at first, like sometimes that you're attracted to the person that's very, very different, and then but then after a while it could become annoying, and then you have to come back around and like figure out what's going on and what are the areas you can like kind of work to kind of compromise basically. The only thing is like in one area we sometimes say is like on values, it's like if your values are totally different, that could be really hard,
I want to highlight that. I think
Yeah.
so. We could be maybe walking promotion that you can have radically different temperaments and
Right.
be happy.
Mhm.
I don't think that's the biggest problem with temperament. However, I think Laraine, it's the ideal of the value. Let's say you put a real high ideal on, I don't know, integrity, but you're dating someone or you're getting to know somebody and they lie or now those are
They
those.
steal.
Well,
Yes.
they try to kill you. No. Those are the parts I think that
Yeah.
we want to have a lot of caution. So it's like, wow, she's outgoing and I'm more introverted, and
That's okay.
I think you can roll with that. I mean, look, a lot of friendships are that way. A lot of people you really love and care about, but there's something that's bonding. There's a bond there that's more important than just temperament, for sure. Maybe even more important than personality. That's what I think we really want to put your radar on. And a lot of course, when you go to college, you're trying to figure out what is the most important thing to me. What are my ideals? What do I live and die for? And you're looking for that. You're looking for someone who supports that more than temperament. Make sense? Yeah, that's a great question.
You mentioned that most things are stagnant.
No.
What did you say?
Melancholy.
At least not Catholic priests.
Evening.
No.
Does that mean certain temperaments have an easier time in developing a relationship with God, or in any temperament? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I'm glad you asked that because I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
We don't think any temperament has an inside link to God.
No.
No. I mean, he will be, he'll want us to grow the whole life. So he may have handed some talents to him, like Lorraine's obviously friendlier than me or whatever, but I have to work on it harder. Right? I have to, yeah, I should be friendly and outgoing and all stuff. If that doesn't come as naturally to me, I have to work on that kind of thing. So I'm sure you're finding it's college keeps pushing you to learn this or do this and all that, and you have to figure out how to figure out. Let's all try to get on a growth curve. So,
But in terms of like what you're drawn to in terms of a career, let's say, or, you know, in this case, the religious life, you know, so that does, sometimes temperament does factor into that, what you're drawn to. So lots of, you know, in sales and marketing, you'll find more sanguines.
Yeah.
You know, because they're, you know, let me schmooze with the people, you know, and sell you something, you know, I can do that, you know, but so, yeah, so, but that doesn't mean that if you're not, that you can't learn that.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but it just might mean that you were drawn to it. And then the same thing to the religious life, like you might be, because if you're a very quiet, very thoughtful, very serious, very prayerful person, you might be drawn to the religious life. In that regard.
And anybody with any temperament.
Yes,
Of course.
can. Everybody is
yeah, so
a relationship with.
the melancholic might be kind of bookish, like
Yeah.
silence and stuff, but we're gonna have to work on it and be radically charitable. And outgoing and helping other people,
Yeah.
born others, so that might be hard. But the sanguine go, hey, let's go, let's go, hold the shelter, let's get it going and get a little bit of people going, but put them in, try to spend 15 or 20 minutes alone in prayer might be really hard, so. So all of us have a leg up, I guess, in relation to the spiritual life, and all of us have something we have to work on. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
How would you go about working on things that you're more inclined to?
Have you heard the question, how would you go about working on something that you're not so strong on?
Yeah.
It's the same almost in every area of life. When you have a weakness, just lean into it and just work on it. I mean, sports is a really good analogy, you know. Remember my son, he was talking about my son's basketball player, the coach said, unless you go left, Bennett, unless you go left, you're not going out on the court.
Yes.
Everyone in this building knows you can only go right. So you tell me when you can go left. So my son comes home and I quit basketball. You're not quitting basketball. You're gonna go here, let me introduce you to your left hand. And he was just, you know, so he went through, you go through life, get something. You go, well, what do I need to do?
You have to do that thing.
What thing do I
That
need
very
to do
thing.
so I can grow? So maybe
Yeah.
somebody like, I don't like it because you're too rude, then you go home and go, screw him or her. You can go, well, maybe I need to be rude. Maybe that's right. But then you need to be less of it. So whatever it is, just work on it. Right.
Or if it's like a really big thing, like if it's perseverance or something, then you might have to break it down into small bits. You know, like, okay, I'm just gonna do this thing for, you know, 1 week, you know, or, you know, it depends on the thing itself probably that you're working on, but like, yeah, so like, you know, let's try persevering for a week on this. And then if I can do it for a week, well, maybe I can do it for 2 weeks, you know, or that sort of thing.
The best practice if you tell somebody who
Oh, yeah,
you know,
tell somebody.
respect, say,
Yeah, I'm working on
let's
it.
work in perseverance. I try to put everything on right before 3 days before finals. I'm not gonna do it this semester. I'm not gonna do it. So I'm gonna start study a little bit every week. Will you check up on me and see if I did that?
Yeah,
That
that's a
really,
friend.
or if I wanna make a change, I might tell her, she'll
Yeah,
help me,
yeah,
hold me accountable. So that's probably the best practice. Somebody you love and care about, who cares about you, and say, oh, we're working on this and fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to help.
that's true. That's
Does
good.
that make sense?
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah. Good questions. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was very wonderful. Art and Laraine, you are always welcome here at Shenandoah University. And at the campus. You know, we truly enjoyed it. And yes, we really appreciate it. I think you can stick around if people have other questions. And since we've run out of time, okay, yeah, please, if you have any questions you want to ask the Bennetts, please stop by and talk to them. Couple quick things then. Don't forget for BTC, go ahead and sign out here. If you're interested in Catholic campus ministry, you're always welcome. And you will find that we're a very welcoming and friendly community. We always feed you. There's no other organization like we do. So, and even after Mass, we have a big fellowship and food. And which, by the way, grab a mug, that's for free, and grab food on the way out. If you're interested in Catholic Campus Ministry, here's a student registration. If you haven't registered yet, please do that, and you will get information and updates and grab one of these bulletins. But we have a lot of freebies here. You got this Catholic Hornets bag and beach balls. Just come over here, and some bracelets, some wristbands, and stickers. So feel free to do that. And I think that's it. So thank you all for coming. Again, don't forget to sign up here, and then if you want to register for Campus Ministry, thank you all.